Are you thinking about buying a second home? Maybe it's an oceanfront condo, or maybe it's a cabin in the mountains. Maybe you're thinking about passive income. But here's the problem. The dream doesn't always match the reality. Either way, today I want to let you know that there's 5 big lies about buying a second home that you need to know about before you sign on the dotted line. With all that being said, let's roll the tape. First lie is a second home is always a good investment. This is the most common misconception because many people think that real estate is foolproof. And you can certainly understand why, especially over the last 4 to 5 years coming off the pandemic, where it just seems like all the values of everything has exploded. Just like everything else in life, real estate is not foolproof either, especially when it comes to second home. Just because home values have risen over the last few years and quite steeply doesn't mean that that's going to occur forever. You need to account for things like market conditions, local real estate trends, and also be prepared for a downturn. So when I say that the secondary market is more volatile than the primary market, the reason this is because when times are good, people have more money, they have more discretionary income, they start putting their income and assets into second homes, oftentimes in vacation areas, which raises the values of them very quickly. However, when the worm turns and the market starts slowing down and times are tough, the secondary home market is the first one that feels the pain. This is when people start cutting back on discretionary purchases, and the secondary home market is the first to feel it, and oftentimes what you see is that slide. The devaluing of homes can happen pretty quick. What I see often happens with the secondary market, especially in a market downturn, is when times get tough. Let's say somebody who owns that second home, they lose a job, they have a divorce or a death, and they're unable to make the payments. Which home do you think they stop making payments on first? The home that they live in, their primary home, or the secondary home? You guessed it, it's the secondary home. It's not uncommon for some of these areas where people have second homes to start seeing foreclosure rates going up very quickly, which ultimately ends up trashing the marketplace. So while buying a second home may look good on paper, it's certainly not a guaranteed win. The best advice I can give is you need to research the market thoroughly and weigh your risks. I would also say if you're thinking about buying a second home, make sure you're thinking long-term, not short-term. Ultimately, in the end, I think the value of everything is going to go up over time. The question is, how much time? Lie number 2 is renting it out will pay for the mortgage. So now let's talk about renting the property out and how that's magically going to pay for itself. I like to think of it as buying a new kitchen gadget. You think you're going to use it all the time, but it ends up collecting dust in the back of your cabinet. The truth is, renting out a second home is far more complex than most people realize. It's definitely not guaranteed that you're going to have a steady stream of renters. And what if your property sits empty for months during the off season? There's no question you're still going to be on the hook for the mortgage, taxes, and maintenance. Plus, even when you have renters, you need to budget in all the other costs like cleaning, management, and those dreaded unexpected repairs. There's no question that renting it will offset some of your costs, but to rely on it to cover all of your expenses, including your mortgage, is a risky bet. You need to always plan that you may not get the amount of renters or the amount of dollars that you're expecting. Before we get into big lie number 3, if I haven't turned you off completely at this point to buying a second home, and you're still thinking about doing that, and maybe you'd like the help of a realtor, I have a whole network of agents throughout the country that I network with. Now, I'm going to let you know, a lot of agents out there are pretty bad, but there are also some very good ones. If you'd like me to connect you with one of the top agents in your town, simply go to the description below, type in on the as referral your contact information, and I will contact you, not to harass you, not to bother you in any way, but to make sure that we make a good referral to a top agent in your area that has your best interests in mind. Lie number 3, it's cheaper to buy a fixer-upper. Gotta love that fixer-upper dream. You buy a home at a bargain price, put in a little time investment, a little elbow grease on it, and voila, you've got a property that's worth double what you paid for. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. You never know what you're gonna find when you start tearing down walls and start messing around with your plumbing and electrical. Costs can skyrocket, and you may find that you've gotten yourself into much more than you bargained for, and prices start spiraling out of control. You also need to factor in that if you're buying a home in a more remote location, finding good and reliable contractors can be difficult. You may find that even in some of the resort areas, the contractors themselves are pretty laid back. Getting them on the phone, getting them to your house oftentimes can be difficult because guess what? They may be out fishing on their boat, or if it's deer hunting season, watch out. All this leads to more costs, more delays, and more frustration. So while a fixer-upper may seem like a steal up front, it can become a money pit faster than you could expect. You're always going to want to get a thorough inspection, but also be realistic about your ability and budget for those repairs. Big lie number 4, you're going to use it all the time. This is another big lie, the assumption that with a second home, you're going to be there all the time. It's a little bit like a gym membership. You ever had one of those where it's like, you know what? I'm going to be here all the time. I'm going to be working out 5 to 6 days a week. And then lo and behold, you haven't been there in 3 to 6 months and you finally give up on the gym membership. I mean, gym memberships can be expensive, but they're nothing in comparison to a second home. Life gets busy. And even if you love the idea of spending weekends or holidays at your second home, it might not happen as often as you think. Whether it's because of work, family obligations, or other travel plans, you may find that your second home ends up being empty more often than not. And remember, even if you're not there, you still need to cover the mortgage payment, the taxes, the association fees, all the maintenance, utilities, all of those things while it sits empty. Before you buy that second home, be honest with yourself. Are you really going to use it as much as you think? Or are you better off renting a vacation home when you want to get away? So before we dive into lie number 5, I also want to let you know that there can also be the flip side to lie number 4. So what I found when I had a second house is that we actually did use the second home a decent amount. We had younger kids at the time, and so we did use it a decent amount, especially during the summer, but also sometimes on long weekends during the winter, during the holiday seasons, which was quite nice. But what we found is we never traveled anywhere else. We were either at our home or the second home, because guess what? You're writing a mortgage payment each month. You're paying for your association fees. So you're kind of feeling like, geez, I'm paying for this. Why should I pay to go somewhere else? And so what I found is during the 5 or 6 years that we owned this second home, once again, we had some great times there, but we also missed out on a lot of things going elsewhere that, looking back on it now, spent a lot of money on that second home, and if I had to do it all over again, I probably would not have done that. But once again, this is where you need to be realistic with yourself. If you have the means and you can have 2 homes and yet still travel and you want to go other places, then hey, second home might be just perfect for you. I feel like you're kind of cutting it tight, either not going to spend enough time at the second home or find yourself not going other places that you really would like to, then, I would definitely think twice about it. Now we're at number 5. It's easy to sell if you change your mind. People often think that if they get tired of their second home, or maybe their needs change, we're just going to go ahead and sell it. And of course, that could be an option. However, going back to what we talked about early on in this video, that depends on where the market is. You may find that if you're selling your home and let's say the market's flat, values have not gone up 1 dime since you purchased it, or worse yet, the values have gone down. When you add in things like real estate expenses and other fees involved with selling your house, you might be in for a huge shock. I've seen plenty of people out there that all of a sudden find out that with the costs involved to sell the property, that they actually can't afford to sell it. Oftentimes they find that the value of the home is less than the mortgage that they have on the property. That could be you as well. So once again, if you're thinking about buying a property, a second home, you need to be thinking long-term. Don't think of it as, oh, we'll just sell it and get out of jail free card. That doesn't always work that way. So there you have it, the 5 big lies about purchasing a second home. What do you think? Do you think that's for you? Or maybe it's not for you? Once again, I've done it myself, and looking back on it, to be quite honest with you, I probably wouldn't do it again. Definitely some good things that came from it, a lot of good memories, but at the same time, it was extremely expensive. And what I found is that I spent so much time there being kind of a slave to the second house, just like the first house, and I didn't go other places. So once again, you be you, you do you. Thanks for checking out this video. If there's anything that I can help you with when it comes to real estate, feel free to reach out to me. I've got all my contact information below. If you'd like to set up a one-on-one video call with me, click the Calendly link right there in the description box below. And with that being said, I will see you next week.